It's Friday night, and this is the Wrestling Channel. I'm Blake Norton, and tonight on the Bagpipe Report, we've got Les Thatcher, Michael Modest, all the latest news and reviews from professional wrestling, and the legendary, the mind of pro wrestling, Mr. Jim Cornette. How's that, Jim?
Oh, God. It may be the best we're going to get. You can't read copy. Your inflection is horrible. I will say this for you, Blake. You got the perfect face for radio. Let's try it one more time.
Okay, everybody, it's been a big week in Ring of Honor. They had a show last Saturday night in New Jersey. A lot of big news coming out of it. First of all, Doug Williams, the FWA champion in the UK right here, he went over and he won a massive tournament to crown a new Pure Wrestling champion. That's right. By submission, Doug Williams over Alex Shelley in the finals. Doug Williams now holds the Ring of Honor Pure Wrestling title, one of the biggest championships in North America, as well as the FWA Championship, which is one of the biggest in the UK. Congratulations to Doug Williams. Moving on to other news, Low Ki made his return at the show. At the end of the Ring of Honor event, he proclaimed that the promotion is reborn. This, of course, has a lot to do with the fact that Ring of Honor is in the middle of separating from RF Video, and as we discussed last week, that means hopefully that it'll be able to bring in more and more talent that weren't able to work with them the last couple of months. Also from the show, they announced that Mick Foley will be joining Ring of Honor for their next major show in Elizabeth, New Jersey. That's coming up September 11th, Saturday night. No word yet as to what Mick Foley will be doing on the show, but with his relationship with WWE on again, off again, what he does here will be very curious for people wondering about the future of the award-winning author. Now, in the last 10 days, we've seen quite the spat between two of the most recognized and respected professional wrestlers in the game. Bret Hitman Hart and Ric Flair have had quite the public fling going on. It seems to have started originally about 10 years ago. Bret made some comments where he questioned Flair's reputation and ability in the ring. Not too long after that, he apologized for it and the matter seemed to be done with. Roll on to 2004, and Ric Flair's To Be the Man, his book, his autobiography, is on the New York Times bestseller list right now. And some of the comments he made in the book didn't make Bret too happy, so they had a little bit of an exchange of words. Here's how it started. In his book, Flair said, and I quote, "Personally, I never saw dollar signs on Bret Hart. He was a good, sound physical wrestler, but with limited charisma and interview skills. He also could have been president of his own fan club. Bret truly thought that he was the best technical wrestler who ever lived. Bret could have a tremendous match when he really wanted, but day to day, I found him to be inflexible. In 1997, when Bret punched out Vince McMahon over a finish in Montreal, I was appalled. At the time, Bret had just signed with WCW. Since he happened to be the World Wrestling Federation champion, he needed to drop the title. Vince wanted Bret to do it at Survivor Series, but Hart wouldn't. As a so-called Canadian hero, and I really don't think Bret has anything on Wayne Gretzky, Bret refused to lose it in Canada. That would be the equivalent of me saying I'd never let anyone beat me in North Carolina. Give me a break. Hogan, for all he did right and wrong, drew a lot of money. Savage, for all he did right and wrong, drew a lot of money. Roddy Piper, Dusty Rhodes, and Ric Flair drew big money. Bret Hart did not. Vince had other distractions at the time, but when Bret beat me for the title, the company went to hell for a while." And of course, right there, Flair is referring to Survivor Series 1992, that whole period where Bret defeated Flair, I should say, for the WWE title, then went on to defend against Shawn Michaels. Bret had a scathing rebuttal, which was first published on WrestlingObserver.com, in which he says, "I knew more about ring psychology and real wrestling at the ripe age of 9 than Ric Flair knew in his entire lifetime. Rick was an old fox that took such liberties every time he thought he could get away with it. I can tell you firsthand that Ric Flair was not a great worker at all. In fact, much like Hogan, Flair's magnetism and charisma distracted from and offset his limited ring ability. The single greatest contribution that Flair ever gave to pro wrestling was the woo from his silly chops. First off, chops hurt. and in my opinion, they look like crap. For Ric Flair to say I wasn't a draw is just plain ludicrous. Everyone knows that most of the time WCW wrestlers worked in front of empty chairs and empty arenas. If you watch Flair's matches, you'll see that he usually made himself at the expense of his opponents, something I was famous for not doing. I'd like to punch Ric Flair right in the nose, but I'd probably have to kick someone in the ass to do it. In the infamous words of Dick Cheney, go f*** yourself, Rick, and be glad that someone like me doesn't shove your head squarely up your ass someday. Now, as you can imagine, the outcry after this was substantial, and not only did fans all over the world weigh in on the situation, but wrestlers did as well. One of the key notable figures who did so was Dusty Rhodes, who knows both men well and worked with Ric Flair all the way through the 80s in WCW. On OneWrestling.com, Dusty said, "They say every seat in the arena is 17 inches apart, and putting asses in those seats is what it's all about. Flair had the ability to put an ass in every 17 inches. Bret Hart went from Calgary to WWF and made his name. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, but the greatest wrestler to ever lace his boots was Nature Boy Ric Flair. Nobody in the business today and nobody in the history of the business could lace Flair's boots." Now, there have been literally dozens and dozens of rebuttals to this situation, and it's quite astonishing that both men went this far. Really, Bret's comments, in my opinion, were certainly a lot stronger than Flair's. I think for fans who are curious and interested in the whole situation and who's right and who's wrong, I think the person who said it best was probably Lance Storm. On his website, stormwrestling.com, Storm said, "I think the best advice for everyone can be found in Flair's book, where he says, 'It is best to judge people on how they treat you, and not how you've heard they treat others.' I know Flair fairly well, and he has always been a class act with me, and I'll judge him on that and treat him accordingly. I only met Bret 3 times and have nothing but respect for him. He too, in my eyes, is a class act, and will treat him accordingly. I think all of you should do the same while looking at their work. You don't need us to tell you who we think is great, and who you want to be a fan of. You've seen their matches, you can make up your own minds. Don't let the battle of words tarnish either man's place in your hearts or in this industry's history." I have no doubt that over the upcoming days and weeks, there'll continue to be more interesting rebuttals to the Bret Hart-Ric Flair controversy. In TNA news this week, a post on PWInsider.com stated that Kid Cash may not be on the outs with TNA for long. We talked a couple of weeks ago about the fact that Kid Cash, on a national radio interview, talked badly of the company about the politics, the money, and so forth. It seems now, according to this report, that Cash will in fact be brought back and the whole situation will be turned into an angle. In other TNA news, the promotion is expanding their operations in Canada. They've signed a new deal with ESPN Classics in the Great White North. What this will mean is that every week they're going to be bringing, from the beginning of the TNA series about 2 years ago, they're going to be bringing the entire TNA series each and every week to ESPN Classics. It'll be a great opportunity for fans up in Canada to see much of the action they've missed and many of TNA's current stars on the roster. Particularly interesting, I thought, in the whole deal was the press release from TNA. They stated some of their top stars: America's Most Wanted, Frankie Kazarian, not quite, Jeff Jarrett, Dusty Rhodes, Johnny Fairplay from Survivor, country music stars, comedian Chris Rock, NFL Pro Bowlers whose names I can't pronounce, and many more non-wrestlers. Nonetheless, these non-wrestlers and the real ones will all be appearing very soon on ESPN Classics. Next weekend sees the launch of a brand new wrestling promotion. H2 Wrestling, spearheaded by Court Bauer and Teddy Hart, will be debuting in the greater Boston area of Massachusetts. You can check out more information about the promotion on h2wrestling.com. Some of the stars appearing on their very first show are Teddy Hart, Jack Evans, who we saw the Move of the Week from last week, that amazing 6:30 Swanton, the Havana Pitbulls, Sabu, Chris Hero, and many more. This, of course, comes from the death of MLW. MLW was an extremely exciting promotion down in Florida, which ran out of business a couple of months ago. Court Bauer ran that, and now Teddy Hart, he's launching a new assault on the wrestling market. Time will tell whether this venture works out, but it sure seems very, very exciting from here. We'll keep you up to date on all the H2 Wrestling news in the next couple of weeks. In injury news, in the WWE, Andrew Test Martin is going to be out for, it seems, about 1 year. He's undergoing serious neck surgery, not unlike the kind that Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, and Rhino have gone through in the last couple of years. Speaking of Kurt Angle, he made a very unexpected return to the ring a couple of nights ago in Japan. WWE SmackDown was over in Japan for 2 dates. The first night in a three-way dance, Eddie Guerrero injured his hamstring. He was wrestling John Bradshaw Layfield and The Undertaker. So the second night, to ease up the match, they made it a tag team match. They needed one more man, and they called on the Olympic hero, Kurt Angle. It has yet to be seen whether Kurt Angle is back in action full-time in the U.S., but based on Angle's last couple of weeks, that seems to be the way things are going, and I'd be very surprised if he wasn't back in the ring by SummerSlam. In other WWE news, Rikishi appears to have been let go by the company as he's taking independent bookings right now. This report comes from PWInsider.com. The last couple of months, Rikishi had been out with injury. He had an ankle injury, and he was just about ready to return after a couple of months off when apparently he was given his pink slip. Our very best to Rikishi in his future work in the wrestling business. Okay, now on the line from the United States, we have Les Thatcher. He is, you'll know his name. He's working right now with Harley Race and Ricky Steamboat, two legendary former NWA champions, and the three of them together are working on Elite Pro Wrestling training. Tell us a little bit about Elite Pro Wrestling training and the work you do with Rick and Harley.
Next month, we're doing a 5-day camp in Eldon, Missouri at the Harley Race Training Academy, and the big grand prize there, actually there's going to be two for the most valuable athletes, the two most valuable athletes of the 5-day camp, along with Harley and myself. Steamer has other commitments, but we'll have Ogawa from Japan's Pro Wrestling Noah, and WWE's top scout, Dr. Tom Pritchard, will be on board.
Excellent.
And at the end of those 5 days, as selected by the trainers and the Noah brass, there will be two grand prizes of all expense paid trip to Japan to train in Noah's dojo and possibly, be on a Noah event there. So that should be very exciting for anyone that attends.
Also, next year, you guys are bringing out a training manual, which I've been told will include not only a manual to do with wrestling execution, psychology, the whole package, but it'll also have a DVD along with it. What can we expect from this? And is it for people who are experienced or people who are starting in the business?
Well, it should be for everyone, I think, Blake. What we hope to do, this is with Sports Publishing LLC here in Champlain, Illinois. They currently have the Bobby Heenan, second Bobby Heenan book out, and Harley's biography, which I believe is already released. But yeah, we're looking for an early 2005 release date. For it will be called Elite Pro Wrestling Training, the art and science of professional wrestling. Harley, Ricky, and I, along with Alex Marvez, who's a very nationally known syndicated sports writer here in the States, who basically covers the Miami Dolphins. But he's also a very accomplished wrestling writer and has been a big fan for years. Anyway, the book should cover approximately 200 pages. It will cover everything from basic holds to ring psychology to costuming and how to sell yourself to promoters, how weight training, nutrition, virtually everything necessary to become a professional wrestler. I think the really exciting thing is that, as you mentioned, there will be a DVD, a companion DVD in the jacket of the book. And on the DVD, we'll be able to demonstrate wrestling moves. Let's say, an example, an arm drag. You'll see it in regular motion, and then as we go on, you'll see it in slow-mo, so you can break the mechanics down, which is something that I began doing 10 years ago in my camp, and I think is very helpful. So there's never been anything like this done, and of course, we're excited about it, and we're as intense, Harley, Ricky, and I are as intense in our training as we were in our ring appearances when we were young men. So,
well, it has never been done on this level, and I don't think I've ever seen a training camp with the kind of star power and the kind of knowledge and experience you guys are holding right now. So I'd encourage everybody interested to check it out. Leslie can give out the website address one more time. What is that?
That is EPWT.com, EliteProWrestlingTraining.com. And if you'd like, and if someone's interested in the August camp, that's posted there. You can also go to HarleyRace.com. And if you're not familiar with Les Thatcher, there's a LesThatcher.com. So,
thank you very much. Take care.
all right, my friend. Bye-bye.
Death-defying, injury-inviting. This week for the Bagpipe Report Move of the Week, we go to Juventud Guerrera and NWA TNA as he hits a high-flying Hurricane Rana, inverted from the top rope.
Needing a win in the first matchup of round number 2 in this first tag team bout.
Oh, Juventud Guerrera going high. Oh, you
Okay, now joining us in the studio, we have Mo Cathra from Power Slam Magazine. People who watch the Wrestling Channel, and if you're watching the Wrestling Channel, you watch the Wrestling Channel, will know his voice very well. He is the voice of Japanese wrestling in this part of the world. When you guys watch Noah, New Japan, Gaia, you're listening to him do all the introductions. He's an expert on the Japanese wrestling scene, and he's going to be here every couple of weeks to share what's shaking in Japan. How are you doing, Mo?
I'm doing very well, Blake. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, why don't you open things up by talking just a little bit for some of our viewers who are unfamiliar about the Japanese wrestling scene now that we're getting the opportunity to see so much of it right now.
Right. I mean, at the moment we're showing 3 promotions on the Wrestling Channel: New Japan, Noah, and Gaia. New Japan is the biggest promotion in Japan, and for much of the 1990s it was the biggest wrestling promotion in the world. Today it's doing very well. It's producing a lot of new young talent such as Shinsuke Nakamura, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Katsuyori Shibata. These are names which are unfamiliar to the casual wrestling fans right now, but over the course of time they're going to become big stars. And Kenzo Suzuki, who's in the WWE, he also merged with these guys as well 3-4 years ago, and New Japan is looking very exciting. A couple of years ago it wasn't looking so good, but it's really coming on strong now, and our programs on the Wrestling Channel are showing that each and every week.
Excellent, excellent. Now, Pro Wrestling Noah had their biggest show to date. This is just last week, July 10th. They had a big dome show, and in fact, one of the guys who is going to be on the show soon, Michael Modest, was on the card. Can you tell us a little bit about that show?
Yes, this was Noah's biggest show to date in its 4-year history. 50,000 fans flocked to the Tokyo Dome on July 10th, and they staged a knockout show. According to some reports, it was the best show since WrestleMania 17, which is considered by many to be the greatest show of all time. I've actually been lucky to watch several of the matches from that show, and it's already looking awesome. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to be bringing those matches to wrestling viewers on the Wrestling Channel sometime in the next few weeks.
That's excellent. Also coming up now is the G1 Climax tournament. It's from New Japan. You were talking with me a little bit about this before we started rolling here, about some of the big North American stars who've been a part of it in the past, such as Vader, the late great Rick Rude. What's happening this year? We got 13 years and we're still going strong, excuse me.
That's right. This year's tournament is the, I believe, 14th tournament. It started in 1991, and it's a tournament for heavyweights from New Japan to wrestle each other to show who is the best in the promotion. And it's an annual August event. And this year's tournament features 16 wrestlers such as Masahiro Chono, Shinsuke Nakamura, Yuji Nagata, all the best guys from New Japan's heavyweight ranks, as well as the junior heavyweight sensation Koji Kanemoto. This year's tournament is going to be rocking, and we're also going to be showing that on the Wrestling Channel probably around October time, and that's something that's well worth looking forward to.
Great stuff. Also, in fact, talking about bridging the gap between European and Western wrestling and then over to Japan, WWE is actually over there. They were just over there a couple of days ago, and they've been over to Japan quite a lot the last couple of years. And in fact, you know, we've heard here on the Wrestling Channel that they're talking about expanding their base because the domestic crowd in the US isn't as great as it once was. So they're doing more in England and more in Japan and more around the world. How are they received in Japan? Because I know that when Japanese wrestlers come to major US promotions like WWE, fans are like, who are these guys and what are they doing? Whereas when it goes the other way around in Japan, from my perspective, people have always been more open to bringing in Western wrestlers.
Oh yes, I mean, Japanese wrestling became big because of American wrestlers coming over there to fight their native wrestlers from the days of Ricky Dozan in the 50s and 60s through to Antonio Inoki in the 70s, which viewers of wrestling classics, New Japan wrestling classics, will be familiar with. And nowadays, WWE has got a huge cult following in Japan. They recently ran 2 sellout shows at the Budokan Hall, which is a 16,500 seat venue in Tokyo, and they were very well received. And Kurt Angle appeared on those shows, and so it looks like he may be back in WWE rings pretty soon.
Big news from Japan.
That's right, yeah. And so the WWE is very well received over there, and it's doing well, and I think they're going to plan on running more shows over there, as well as, of course, over here, which you'll talk about over the coming months.
Excellent. Now, upcoming months here in the Wrestling Channel, what can people expect? You talked about the 3 promotions, Noah, New Japan, Gaia. What are we going to be seeing here in the Wrestling Channel in the next couple of months?
We've got some good programming coming up from New Japan. We've got the Crush 2 event, which was taped in June, and that's going to feature Ultimo Dragon. Of course, he's on a hiatus from the WWE, and he's returning back in a couple of months. And so we're going to see him in a match. We're going to see Koji Kanemoto in action, and we're going to see the IWGP title at stake in a very interesting match. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it's a very, very good match. I've seen it already, and that's something that's well worth watching. And also, apart from that, we've got a couple of New Japan supercards coming up over the next few months. We're going to bring viewers, hopefully, a show on Chris Benoit. He had a very great career in New Japan in the early 90s. Loads and loads of tremendous, awesome matches, which really made his name back then. And we're going to bring those, hopefully, within the next couple of months, as well as one of the greatest shows of all time, the Super J Cup 1994, which is well worth seeing for any wrestling fan. So hopefully we're going to bring those over. And also next month, we're going to be bringing up-to-date viewers up-to-date coverage of Gaia's shows from 2004. So far, we've been showing shows from 2001, along with Noah as well. And hopefully, we're going to bring their coverage up to date as well. So there's a lot of good stuff to look forward to for Wrestling Channel fans from Japanese promotions.
That sounds excellent. Well, you're mentioning Chris Benoit there. I think it's interesting that they have a DVD coming out soon. And all these DVDs they're bringing out with guys like Foley and Benoit and all that, WWE are actually almost letting fans know a little bit, what kind of a rich history people have in ECW in Mexico. And so many of the stars that we're familiar with today, including Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, so many great guys have had an amazing history. And many will have an amazing future in Japan. So Mo Cathra is your bridge between the East and the West, and it was a pleasure to have you in studio today. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Okay, on the phone right now from Hayward, California, we have Michael Modest. If that name rings a bell, there's a number of reasons. He's been on a series of wrestling specials. You've seen him wrestle for WCW. You've seen him as a star of Beyond the Mat, the famous wrestling documentary from Barry Blaustein. You've also seen him right here on the Wrestling Channel, Wrestling for Noah. He has his own wrestling academy in Hayward, along with Donovan Morgan and Frank Murdoch. And he's indeed a star of Noah, and we're going to talk to him about that tonight. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm good, Blake. How's it going?
We're doing great. Now,
Hey, actually, I wanted to correct you on something. I'm actually not talking to you from Hayward. That's where the training facility is. But I'm actually talking to you from way up in the mountains in California, from Trinity Center, California. Bears, mountain lions, all that crap. I'm a mountain man now.
That's how you keep in shape, is it? You go up and you wrestle and you fight the bears and the lions and the tigers?
I'm telling you, the air's thin up here, so, I'm up here splitting wood and shoveling snow, and, it's a... did you ever see Rocky, what was it, 4 or 3?
Yeah, where he's running through the
Drago?
mountains, running through and Dolph Lundgren and all that?
Yes, that's my training regimen right now. I pretty much run through the snow. I hang upside down off of bars and do sit-ups and crap like that.
So it's Michael, he's a lumberjack and he's okay, Modest.
That's right.
Well, what I wanted to talk to you about first is, and we're just talking about on the show tonight actually, Noah had his biggest show to date in the Tokyo Dome just last week. Sellout crowd, 58,000 fans is the capacity, I believe. What was it like for you to wrestle on that show with Donovan Morgan?
It's funny. Before the show, or actually before the match, I went out and I said a prayer and I looked around at the people, and it was pretty awesome, just looking at that kind of capacity crowd. That was the largest crowd I've ever worked in front of. And, we've done Budokan quite a few times, and Budokan's an enormous building, 20,000 people, and Noah has been selling that out regularly. And, so they felt like it was time to do Tokyo Dome. So I'm out there, and I'm standing, I'm looking up at the Jumbotron, and it was pretty awesome. And then when I got in the ring, I noticed something, afterwards. I was kind of thinking about the show and thinking about getting in the ring and everything. Do you know what it's like working in front of 58,000 people?
I've only done so 2 or 3 times, so no, I don't.
It's exactly the same as wrestling in front of 100.
Really?
Yeah, at this point in my career, like had it been earlier on in my career, it would have been a more awesome thing. Mm-hmm. But at this point, I've just been doing this so long, I didn't have butterflies. I didn't get that extra rush at all. Mm-hmm. Still had a great match and everything, but I don't know.
Have you seen the tape yet?
No, I haven't seen any footage on it.
Do you think that might change your perspective a little bit, seeing all the fans out there?
It's possible, yeah. But
it's a weird thing. You get out there in front of 58,000, and it's the same as working a small crowd in front of 100. Mm-hmm. It really, really is. You're concentrating so much on the match, and you only see the first couple of rows, anyways. Mm-hmm. You know, because at no point during the match are you looking up at the nosebleed seats, and you know, you're just not even paying attention to it. You just go in there and do what you need to do, and it's the same. It really is. It's the same feeling, and I'm sure if you know, I mean, Pontiac Silverdome, maybe that's different. Mm-hmm. You know, but the Tokyo Dome was awesome, but you know, like I said, it really is. It's the same. So for, you know, young indie wrestlers that are out there and they're wrestling in front of 100, even 50 people, you know, they should know that, hey man, that's where you get your experience, and it really is. It's no different than working in front of 58,000 at Tokyo Dome.
Well, Michael, thank you very much for that, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Blake.
Take care. This Sunday, as every Sunday, it's a special Supercard Sunday right here on the Wrestling Channel. We go to Ring of Honor for Do or Die, a DVD, which is also available right now with a lot of other great DVDs. That's on the store, thewrestlingchannel.tv/shop. We're going to be showing you the whole card from top to bottom. It's got Samoa Joe versus Homicide, Special K versus the Backseat Boys, Matt Striker, CM Punk, the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels, and many more. Here's a preview of Ring of Honor, Do or Die. Okay, welcome back to the Bagpipe Report. Now, it is very rare in this life and in this business where I would wholeheartedly endorse a person who I've never worked with before. Such would be a rare occasion such as this. The man we have on the line right now, Mr. Jim Cornette, has been a part of this business for the last 20 years. He's worked in just about every capacity with every major organization. And what he says is respected all around the world. Mr. Jim Cornette, how are you today, sir?
Well, thank you. My PR guy is now fired, and you're officially taking the spot. I'll have a check in the mail to you first thing Monday morning.
I was bucking for it.
You did a wonderful job. You read it almost as good as I wrote it.
I have it right here, everybody. Jim, you are working right now with OVW, and everybody knows that OVW and WWE work together a lot because everybody the world around knows about OVW, but they don't actually know the specifics, exactly what you guys do and what you do on a day-to-day basis, because everybody's so used to seeing you on television all the time and they haven't seen you on WWE for a few years. What is it that you do right now, and what is it that OVW's goals are in wrestling?
Oh, wow. Boy, does he know how to ask a multi-part question. Let me get started saying 5 years ago I was living in Stamford, Connecticut, working in the WWE office, and a lot of the work that I was doing was going to different independent events and looking at new talent and trying to scout people, you know, that may be the future of wrestling, right? Mm-hmm. So at that point in time, I had re-met an old tag team member of mine, Danny Davis, who I managed as one of the Nightmares, one of the Galaxians years ago, blah, blah, blah. He had a school here in Louisville, Kentucky, which is my hometown. I accidentally ran into him while I was visiting home. So the concept was, let's make an official. Memphis was already a loose developmental system in that they had a promotion there, and the WWE would sign guys and send them there to wrestle in front of people and get experience. But there was no wrestling school, training facility / promotion / television, etc. Group that was working in developmental. So we kind of put it together where I could move back to Louisville, which was a very big boon to me, and we could have a full service down here where we basically train the guys either from scratch or if they've been in the business for a while and they get signed by the WWE, they come here and they kind of see what we do. They get comfortable with the style. We take students of our own at our school, and some of them have been awarded contracts when they started here from scratch and got good enough to be noticed. So basically we kind of have a full-service training facility in Louisville in that we run live events, we have a weekly television show, we have a full-time training center, and several different classes.
You have been very outspoken about the, I suppose, ECW hardcore style wrestling versus the art of wrestling. What is your take on the strong style, unquote, that's featured a lot in Ring of Honor and more in wrestling promotions right now, where the goal is to both work the match but also hit people really hard? What is your take on that?
Well, I've hit many people really hard. I'm in favor of that. When it's called for, the thing is, everybody wants to have the next breakout style, or this is going to be the greatest thing, and everybody will watch something different for a few minutes. We can talk about dogs, making love in the street. You're gonna watch that for about 30, 45 seconds, depending on who you are. But sooner or later, even that gets tiresome. Car wrecks, big car wrecks. Somebody blows up, people running, screaming on fire, heads flaming. Right? You're gonna watch that. But if it goes on for 20 minutes, you get bored.
Yeah.
But you can sit down and read a book or watch a movie and a story, and that will take you. That will hold your attention for a lot longer period of time.
Because it evolves.
So, I just think that there's no replacing. You can modify and you can tweak, but still it comes down to two guys or whatever that people care about, that are mad at each other, that are fighting for something, and you tell them a story. And it doesn't matter how technical your wrestling is, or how hard you hit somebody, or whether you've got 16 tables in the ring. It depends on whether they care about what you're doing.
Are you familiar with the NWA TNA product?
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, that almost answers my second question.
Actually, here's the thing. I didn't watch one forever because Vince Russo is on camera as a talent, and I feel no need to pay $9.95 American money for the right to be, just pissed off in my own home. And, if I have to look at his face, then that's going to cause me to break stuff. So I never got one. But then I was taking some time off a couple months ago, took a week off, and there I was sitting there on the couch, and there it was. So I ordered it. And I will have to say the production is amazing. The lights and the set and all the stuff they do. I don't know about this six-sided ring now. This was before that, but they'll reinvent anything.
Yeah.
But it was absolutely just the graphics. Wow, they were super. It was without a doubt the most abysmal, putrefying, awe-inspiringly bad big-budget wrestling show I've ever seen in my life. The matches made no sense. They went on forever. They went nowhere. They fell apart due to green guys trying to do a bunch of stuff that nobody understood, even if they were sitting there with a notepad trying to keep track of it, because that's Russo's idea of surprising people, because he's a moron. Jeff Jarrett is, I said this to Tim Horner one time. Jerry Jarrett, I have a ton of respect for. He started me in the business. He was a tremendous promoter, a genius in the wrestling booking department. Jeff, I've known for 20-something years. He's a great kid. But I said this to Tim Horner one time. Tim, if this was a movie, you would be the best friend. Jeff Jarrett is not the guy to build a promotion around. I can understand because it's his promotion partially that he wants to make sure that he can't walk out on himself. That's a factor. But still, you know, good heavens, take those many dollars that they're spending on pay-per-view and start a territory in Nashville and Alabama and Mississippi and part of Georgia, and you could run forever.
10 years from now, will it be totally just people sitting there judging, you know, the rotation of the bump on each spot, or will we somehow find our way back to the way it used to be?
Well, no, it won't be because, see, for the people who analyze that much, and a lot of people on the internet that don't have girlfriends and things of that nature, yeah, I'll go ahead and say it. I love controversy. But no, I mean, why else would you spend that much time? When I was a kid, we loved wrestling. We read wrestling magazines. We went to the matches. We took pictures. We got autographs. But we didn't sit there and analyze, wow, when he scooped the arm drag on the hip toss in the Hurricane Rana, you know, for Jesus Christ's sake. And plus, we didn't know what we were looking at. But as more and more people find out more and more things, more and more of them just go away from it because it insults their intelligence now. I've had many people tell me, you know, they really got ticked off when they found out that all those things that we told them weren't necessarily true. Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So therefore, they just said, heck with it, I'm going to go and take up crocheting. So they left. They don't want to come back. That's the problem. So you have to make new fans. And, you know, hopefully the new fans will appreciate the new style because then all the guys won't be in the hospital with neck surgery.
Do you think the reason that promotions such as Ring of Honor and bits and pieces have introduced a strong style and quote is simply because they're trying to stay a half step ahead of the kayfabe?
Well, once again, you can make anybody believe anything. One time we had a radio DJ that was doing a little spot with one of our girl referees on a television program to promote a big event we had coming up. And I told him what to go out and say. He went out and said it. Well, because he was riling the fans up, I was at the broadcast position, and when we went to break, as he's walking back, I'm telling people next to me, that guy, he's got a big mouth. Boy, I'll tell you what, he really ticks me off, too. That no good blah, blah, blah. Well, the radio guy gets back in the locker room and hears me on the open mic in the commercial break saying what a no-good son of a gun he was. And then he starts asking the boys, hey, did I screw something up? Well, they think that I'm mad. So they're shying away from him. Well, then he gets mad because he's like, I did exactly what he said for me to do, and he stalks off and leaves all pissed off. And the next day I call him and we laugh about it. But the point is, there's people with the format of the television program hanging on the wall in front of them, and they still don't know what to think. You can make anybody believe anything if it's presented logically and rationally, and that is the basis of wrestling. I like this person because I either want to be like him, admire him, or would like to hang out with him, or I hate this person because he ticks me off, or he represents everything that I don't like, or he's just a no-good so-and-so, and I want to see them fight. But why are they fighting? There's got to be some reason. Because so-and-so won so-and-so's championship belt. Now I know why they're fighting, and the winner gets something. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. They have made it so complicated. And guys now get in the business that want to become promoters just so that they can pay some of the guys to sit in the locker room with them in a large part. They don't know how to run a show. It's like if the National Basketball Association here was suddenly deregulated and every 5 guys with sneakers at a basketball could become a professional basketball team. But now they're going to throw the inbounds pass over flaming tables. And they're going to shoot free throws with people waving barbed wire bats in front of them. And then when the shot clock gets to 10 seconds, they throw 1,000 thumbtacks out on the floor. How long is it going to take for people to say, what the hell are you trying to sell me here? Jesus. Didn't those 2 teams last year, they just played because they really wanted to win the NBA title? You've made it complicated. The people get immune to it. It's too much. And then you've ruined after you've been told that people should be fighting for the championship to make more money, and that's a simple thing that anybody can realize, and then you throw all this other stuff into it and just prostitute it so badly that now you've seen them diving off ladders trying to catch championship belts in midair that were being held by man-eating tigers. Now you just want them to watch a title match where the winner gets 1, 2, 3 count and they hand him the belt? Jesus.
Forget about it.
That's why it's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
They just overdo everything to outfox their own selves. Heyman one time. The reason why I went to ECW once as a favor for Chris Candido. Candido calls me. He says, I need to ask you a big favor. Can you make an ECW show? I thought he was kidding me. I said, Chris, you out of your mind. I don't want to come down here and do that. Well, it'd be a favor for me. It would really get me over with Paul because, he needs a surprise. What do you mean he needs a surprise? Well, every show that he has a surprise superstar appear that wasn't advertised and do something. And now the people expect a surprise. I said, Chris, what have you just said? If the people expect a surprise, it's not a surprise. The very textbook definition of surprise is shocking, unforeseen event. So you're telling me now that this stupid son of a bitch that's running his company has to pay a major superstar to come in to be on his shows every time he runs them, but he can't advertise them because the people then won't get a surprise?
Mm-hmm.
And that began the chain of events. But he had dumbed himself into the position of having to pay for a surprise to the point where people expected the surprise as part of the show. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't get a surprise, they're pissed. Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that we shouldn't hold you too long here. You're speaking now to UK, Ireland, and all over the world. What would be your closing comments about the state of professional wrestling today?
I think for all of the guys that want to be wrestlers, and we need more of them because we need talent, the opportunity is there to make more money than ever before, but the spots are harder to get. For all the guys, concentrate on your strong points, accentuate your strengths, try to hide your weaknesses. Don't get too complicated. Look at what the guys that you admire in the ring do that are good at what they do and try to emulate them. Don't follow the fad or the craze or try to cripple yourself because that's the only way you can get noticed. Because, I would have loved to have been a billionaire. Billionaire was my first job choice before wrestling manager. Wrestling manager actually was number 2.
A career optional for the billionaire.
But billionaire was number 1.
Sure.
But you know what? I wasn't qualified. So therefore, I went with number 2. Guys, do it for fun. If you are really good at it, continue doing it and try to get noticed. But don't kill yourselves just to get noticed when you know, if you're honest with yourself, that you don't have the talent or the drive or the ability or whatever it takes just to be in the top spot where you see the other guys. Then do it for a hobby. But don't kill yourselves and don't follow fads. Try to emulate the guys that are really good at what they do and have been successful, and you can't go wrong.
Jim Cornette, live from the U.S., thank you so much for joining us. It has been a real pleasure to have you here on the Bagpipe Report, and the best of luck with your work with OVW and WWE.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you heard the competition last week. You want the Legends of Wrestling and a free console from Acclaim? You know the question, which of the following promotions has Hulk Hogan not wrestled for? It's A, NWA TNA, or B, New Japan Pro Wrestling, or C, Memphis Championship Wrestling. Text your answer, Legend A, Legend B, or Legend C, to 88066. Closing date is next weekend, so get texting. And now it's time once again to delve into the TBR mailbag. Les from London, England asks, being a fan of wrestling since I was young and especially of Bret Hart and Chris Benoit, my question is about Stu Hart. Did he really live up to all the stories I've heard about him? Stu was the one wrestler and trainer I wanted to meet. Well, the short answer is yes. On a personal answer, I suppose, I've been around a huge amount of personalities in the business, and I've seen different people's different sides, and it's never fair to judge anyone in this business by a short meeting. A lot of fans will know maybe you might have met a wrestler really quickly and he was particularly nice or particularly mean, and that doesn't mean they're a good guy or a bad guy. It just means they had a good or a bad day. But I was around Stu for the best part of a year, and he's always been the most amazing person. I remember the very first day I got to Calgary with my girlfriend Natina. We walked into his kitchen and he was standing there at the stove making hamburgers, and he was standing there for a good minute before he noticed us. And he looks over his shoulder and he says, "Oh, hello, would you like a burger?" He didn't know who we were. We didn't know who I was, who Tina was, and he's really bad on telephones. So if you ever talk to him on the phone, most of the time he won't even know who you are before the end of the conversation anyway. But he was so warm and so inviting that he didn't question what we were doing, and we became his friend that day and every day we knew him since. I remember another day we asked him, how do you hook up a wrestling ring? Myself, one of the students who were putting a ring together for the first time and nobody else had arrived. And I said, "Stu, this coupling here, how does it work?" He took a pen out of his pocket and walked over to one of his old Cadillacs because he had no paper. And on the trunk of his Cadillac, he drew a diagram of how the hook is meant to go in. "So, yeah, you have to make sure the clamp goes in good and tight, good and thick, so that way it won't buckle when you..." Half an hour he wrote on the back of his Cadillac because he didn't have any paper for us. And about 1 month later, when our car was towed, he gave us the same Cadillac and we drove in it for 2 weeks. So Stu, yes, was an amazing, amazing person. Our next question comes from Chris H., who asks, do you think Paul London and Billy Kidman winning the tag team titles on SmackDown a few weeks ago will just be a meaningless run and not actually be the benefit of Kidman and London, but rather another way to get the Dudleys over once more? Quite the skeptical question right there, Chris. Based on history, it's not fair to speculate for the future, but based on history, sadly I'd have to say yes. Anytime a cruiserweight wrestler is given a push in WWE, 95% of the time it's retracted. The number of times that the Cruiserweight Championship has been pushed to the forefront and then pulled back and forward and backwards again, I can't count. Short-lived underdog tag team champions of the Cruiserweight variety are numerous. In fact, off the top of my head, I can think of Taz and Spike Dudley, who in fact beat the Dudleys on a Royal Rumble a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I think it might have been 2003. And yet, most people don't even remember that they even won the straps in the first place. So based on history, I'd have to say it's unlikely that London and Kidman are going to get a shot. However, keep tuned. They've got the titles right now, and let's not be skeptical. And at the very least, let's be thankful that these two very talented athletes have the chance to go out there and show what they got on SmackDown right now. Now it's time to take a little look at what's coming up on the UK and Ireland wrestling scene in the next couple of weeks. Next Sunday night, July 25th, FWA presents Vendetta from the Broxbourne Civic Center. Every Thursday, July 22nd to September 2nd, Summer Season of Wrestling Spectaculars comes to you from Premier Promotions at the Worthing Assembly Hall. Next month, on Saturday the 21st of August, Revolution British Wrestling will be at the Selbeck Hall in London. From Monday, July 26th, the World Association of Wrestling will begin a run of 5 weekly shows at the new Atlantis Resort in Greater Yarmouth, ending on Monday, August 23rd. And finally, WZW have their Path to Destruction tour. Whitley Bay Residents Association, Tyne and Wear on Friday, 27th of August. Then it's on to Courtham Memorial Hall in Redcar, Saturday, 28th of August. And finally, at the Starlight Suite in Tyne and Wear, Sunday, the 29th of August. 3 dates in a row from WZW. Now let's take a look at some of the action coming up this week on the Wrestling Channel. On Ring of Honor High Impact TV, we have Low Key versus the Amazing Red and a high-flying confrontation with Spanky versus Jody Fleisch. If you like blood, brawls, and broads, make sure you check out Propane Pro Wrestling 3PW this week, a hardcore confrontation between Pitbull, Gary Wolf, and the Sandman. On the World of Sport, we have Hurricane Keith Howard versus Steve Gray. On NWA TNA this week, It's Juventud Guerrera versus Chris Sabin. Followed up by Team AAA versus Team NWA in a crazy 8-man tag match. And on NWA Wild side, it's Sweet Dreams versus Jason Blackman and Todd Sexton versus Biohazard. All that's coming up this week on the Wrestling Channel, plus the RF Shoot interview with Steve Corino, Mr. Old School himself. That just about does it for us here at the Bagpipe Report for 1 week. Make sure you check out the WrestlingChannel.tv. They've got all the information on upcoming shows, new shows, free newsletters, forums, and a whole lot more. Also, the BagpipeReport.com. We've got tonight's show right up there online anytime you want to see it. We've also got all our exclusive interviews archived there. Again, the BagpipeReport.com. We'll be back again this same time, this same channel next week. We got all the news, we got all the reviews, we got all the bits and pieces from the world of professional wrestling, plus an exclusive interview with one of the top stars in the business today, the phenomenal AJ Styles. Take care.